Armchair Explorer is a part of the Voyescape podcast network. Check out all of their shows from around the world at voyescape.com. This episode is sponsored by Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet. You know, we've all got that one friend, haven't we? That one who finds all the best travel deals, picks the right cards, and somehow ends up in first class for the price of coach. Well, now you can be that friend because Smart Travel is like him or her, but in podcast form. They cover all things travel finance, like how to get real value from points, not just a tiny little reward at the end of checkout, or which flight deals are actually deals and not just clickbait, or when that convenient travel bundle might actually be a hidden tax in disguise, all that stuff. So travel smarter and spend less with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, welcome to the Armchair Explorer, where the world's greatest adventurers tell their best story from the road. My name's Aaron Miller. I'm a travel writer. And man, this episode, I have been waiting for this episode to come out for a very, very long time. John Herrington is the first Native American astronaut. He's from the Chickasaw tribe. He's an amazing guy. He tells an incredible story. And he is literally going to take us out of this world. We are going for a spacewalk on the International Space Station. Are you ready to blast off? Yeah, me too. Let's go. But first, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that's been listening so far. It's really been amazing to hang out with you and to get your feedback, and I'm so pleased that you guys are enjoying the show. If you do like what you're hearing, please do me the huge favor of subscribing, leave a review, share it with your friend. We are building a community of people that want to celebrate the amazingness of this planet by exploring every inch of that, whether that's on your own 2 feet or just in your own comfy armchair back home. You can connect with me on Instagram at Aaron M. Writer for inspiring clips from the shows, as well as some of my photography and travel writing and adventure poetry and all that general rambling. You can hit up our Facebook page, Armchair Explorer Podcast, for more of the same. And finally, check out armchair-explorer.com for more background on each one of these episodes, as well as the chance to book each and every one of these experiences for yourself. Before we begin, I just also want to give a big shout out to John's new film. It's called Into America's Wild, intoamericaswild.com to find out more about it. It's amazing. It's a beautiful IMAX movie, and he takes you through some of America's most pristine and beautiful and often little-known landscapes in really adventurous and cool ways. It's a total kind of wilderness roller coaster ride of a movie, and I really want to give that a shout out. And I also want to come back to that. So we're going to go into space. But that experience that John had in space has a kind of direct link to that work he's doing now, which is all about showcasing the beauty of this planet and the preciousness of the natural world around us. So we're going to come back to that at the end. But for now, get ready, because we are about to go on an adventure out of this world.
You know, when I was 8 years old, living in Colorado, I used to play astronaut. I sit in a cardboard box and dream I was going to the moon. Even shot rockets out in Black Forest. We used to shoot rockets, and I put beetles in the payloads of the rockets. When you first get selected, you spend about 1.5 years learning about the space shuttle and the space station, about NASA in general, so that you have some background when you go out to the public and share with what NASA does. But once you get assigned to a space flight, you may train for as many as 1.5 years to 2 years for that specific space flight. And since I did 3 spacewalks, a good portion of my time was in a pool in Houston, performing spacewalks underwater, learning how to train underwater. And then also, since I was a flight engineer on the space shuttle, I did a lot of ascent and entry simulators with the commander and the pilot because that was my job, was to support them going uphill and coming down with any malfunctions that may occur.
So in order to have the right stuff to be an astronaut, there is loads of training they have to do, loads of classes, loads of science, loads of engineering, and loads of languages too. They have to actually learn Russian in order to speak with mission control. And every single person that's up on that space station has to speak at least 2 languages, which I think is pretty cool. But John's specialist job on this trip was to go out and do the spacewalks, do the repairs on the outside of the space station. And the way you train for that is in what's called the neutral buoyancy lab. It's basically the largest swimming pool on the planet. It's over 200 feet long, 100 feet wide, and 40 feet down. And inside is a replica. Underwater is a replica of the International Space Station itself. So John will go down in full astronaut gear and floating there, kind of simulating that neutral buoyancy, that zero-G gravity. He will practice over and over again the different repairs and stuff that he's going to need to do in space. And by the end of it, he would have spent more than 100 hours down there underwater simulating that spacewalk. But all that's quite fun, isn't it? The thing that I personally could never do is what's affectionately known as the vomit comet. Basically, if you imagine the most disgusting, sickening roller coaster on the planet, it's not even close.
You do a series of parabolas, and every time you go over the top of the parabola, you go weightless for about 20 seconds, 25 seconds. And then you come out of the bottom and you pull about 2 Gs. So you're in this really wild roller coaster ride that takes you do about 40 times. And if you don't get sick somewhere in there, you're not human, because it's up and down and up and down and up and down.
And they do it over and over and over again in almost like a wave-like pattern, up and down, up and down. And as it goes up, and just before it goes down, there's a moment where weightlessness occurs. And according to the angle of the wave that the plane flies in, they can create different variations of weightlessness. So they can do true zero-G, or they can do like 1/6 of the Earth's atmosphere, which is basically what the lunar surface is like. They say that 1/3 of the people that do it are violently ill, 1/3 are moderately ill, and the other third are just a little bit ill. And I know where I would be. Let's just say you wouldn't want to be floating next to me. But if you do fancy that, the cool thing is you don't actually need to be an astronaut to do it. There's a really cool company called Zero-G that takes kind of mere mortals on this flight and shows them what it feels like to be weightless. So you can actually experience weightlessness without going into space, as long as you have an iron stomach. But then the moment comes when the training's done and you've got to strap on the suit and do it for real. For John, that moment came in 2002 on board the Space Shuttle Endeavour.
I was fortunate during my career as an astronaut. I spent about 2.5 years actually working at the Kennedy Space Center, helping strap astronauts into the space shuttle and recovering them when they came home. So I knew what the experience was from the aspect of supporting it. But when you finally get a chance to do it, you realize that the day you put the suit on may not be the day you fly, because there could be a problem with the space shuttle, there could be bad weather, there could be something that makes you take the suit off and try again another day. So I tried 3 times. We had 2 scrubs before the final time I put the suit on. I actually took it off in space rather than taking it off in crew quarters. It's usually about 4 hours before launch. You get suited up, and then you could be out on the launch pad for probably 2.5 to 3 hours waiting to fly before the main engines actually light and solids go and you go to space. One thing, when you work out there, I worked on the pad for a couple of years, so when they fully fuel the vehicle, there's only a certain number of people allowed out on the launch pad, because it's a dangerous thing. You've got a lot of hydrogen, a lot of oxygen, so, nasty stuff can happen. And so you vent off a lot of this oxygen, this stuff being vented off of the vehicle, and it's like it's breathing. And there's ice, the stuff is so cold that a lot of the pipes on the launch pad get ice on them. And so you get out there and you feel like this, it actually feels like it's living. It really is. And so when you go out there for the first time to actually fly it, it takes on a whole new dimension. And since I'd worked out there, that part of it I understood. So it wasn't as strange to me as it would be for somebody that had never done it before. And there are astronauts that the first time they ever see a launch is it's in the rearview mirror.
It's like it's breathing. I love that. John describes the space shuttle almost like it's a dragon, like it's this hissing, living, steaming thing, which is lovely. I think in a way it sort of shows how close he is to that shuttle, like it's almost like a pet or something like that. But this isn't a pet that you would want to have in your house. This really is a dragon, breathing fire beneath it as it launches and explodes into space. I can't imagine what it would feel like to be strapped into that, knowing that you are about to be launched, hurled at insane speeds out of our orbit, and there is no turning back. And knowing also that launch, that moment of launch, is the most complicated and dangerous part of the whole journey.
There's a big hold, a launch hold that occurs where everybody checks all the systems out, and you have, since you're going to space station, you only have a 5-minute window with which to launch. And so if you have to hold the launch because there's a malfunction, there's only about 5 minutes that's allowed for that to solve that problem, because if you can't solve it in that short period of time, you don't launch that day. You have to come back the next day and try again. And so when you're on the launch pad, you come out of the last hold at T-minus 9 minutes. And so from 9 minutes, the countdown of 9 minutes, the time you lift off, things get very busy. For the pilot and commander, essentially, they have to start and do a variety of things. The pilot has to do a lot of electrical things and start auxiliary power units. And so you support them and watch all of the indications when they start these things up. So if there's any malfunctions, then you can help deal with them. And so a lot of stuff happens from the time of T-minus 9 minutes to the time you lift off. And the last 30 seconds, I thought to myself, I'm actually going to space.
And the force that he's about to be hurled into orbit is just almost incomprehensible. In 6 minutes, he's going to go from 3,000 miles an hour, that's fast enough, by the way, to just over 17,000 miles an hour. That is quite a ride.
So you pull about 2 Gs on the first 2 minutes. The second minute of launch, it's about 2 Gs, and the solid rockets fall away, and you actually feel like you're slowing down. But now you're on the main engines, and as the main engines burn, it burns off so much hydrogen and so much oxygen, the vehicle keeps getting lighter and lighter and lighter, and so you accelerate faster and faster and faster to the point where you're pulling about 3 Gs, 3 times your normal body weight in the last minute of launch. And then it feels like somebody's sitting on your chest. And so when the engines quit, you go from 3 Gs to 0 Gs instantaneously. I mean, it's like you go from to woo, and whatever was on your chest has now jumped off, and now everything's floating. Your checklist, you're seatbelted in, so you're not floating yet, but the minute you take your seatbelt off, you realize you have to hang on because you're floating out of your chair. And you look out the side window and you go, oh, those clouds are really moving pretty fast.
It's every kid's dream, isn't it? It's actually every 40-something travel writer's dream to be weightless, to fly. I mean, it's just incredible. And that view, you're suddenly in space. And one of the first things you'll see is movement. The image we have of the Earth is static, right? It's a photograph. But that's not the truth. The Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and the space station is orbiting at 17,000 miles an hour. So when you're up there, what you see is the Earth as a moving thing. You see clouds flashing past. You see oceans come and go. You see cities light up and then disappear. You see continents moving. It's a living thing. And not only is that one of the most beautiful and awe-inspiring views you will ever see, it's also a very important and powerful one too, because when astronauts come back from space, they report this feeling of a kind of cognitive shift in awareness. It's called the overview effect. And once you see the Earth as a whole, once you leave the Earth's atmosphere and you see the Earth as a whole, and you see this beautiful, as Buzz Aldrin called it, this brilliant jewel in the black velvet sky, it changes you. That view changes you. You start to realize how precious it is. You start to realize how petty our little squabbles between nations are. And you start to realize that we are all in it together. We're going to come back to that later on. But for right now, John and his crew have to dock on the ISS. And that's no easy feat.
Well, when we dock to the space station, my job was I controlled all the computers. I had to set up. We had laptop computers that helped with the rendezvous. I did set up the cameras. The commander flies the vehicle. We have different folks, shooting lasers out the window to measure how fast we're closing in on the space station. But once we dock, some folks have to, we have to drive latches, so we're actually docked to the space station. We transfer cargo. A lot of the cargo on the shuttle has to go to the space station and vice versa. So you're moving. You're moving stuff back and forth and packing it.
So imagine guiding a 200,000-pound object moving at 17,000 miles an hour towards a 7-story building, which is orbiting itself, moving 220 miles above the Earth. And you have to hit it within 3 inches. But they make it. And before John picks up the story of life on board the ISS, I just want to set up how amazing the International Space Station really is. I wrote a book a while ago about the 50 greatest wonders of the world, and the coolest thing about doing that book was I got to choose my own wonders, and I wanted to put in a load of new ones that had never been there before, and the ISS, the International Space Station, was top of my list for that. Quite simply, it's one of humankind's greatest achievements. It's the largest and the most complicated structure that's ever been flown in outer space. It's one of the most ambitious projects that's ever been conceived. And it's happening right now. The ISS has been continuously manned since the year 2000. For more than 2 decades now, we have had an actual colony in space. And what's even more important than the engineering and the ability to build it is that we did it together as one human species, and we still operate it that way. The crew of the ISS is always a mixture, a combination of people, of scientists from around the world, and it is truly our greatest peacetime collaboration that has ever been achieved. And I think it's a real example of what we can do when we put down our petty squabbles and start thinking about bigger and more amazing projects that we can achieve together.
Imagine having a 4-bedroom house where you can play in all corners of the house, not just the floor. You can go to the ceiling, you can go to the wall. The wall can be the floor, the ceiling can be the floor. So in the space stations, it's made that way so that, up, down, left, or right, you can have experiments on the ceiling, and you can feel like you're actually working, you're standing up next to the wall, because the orientation of each one of them is, your orientation is based on what you see. It's not what you feel, because you're in this constant free fall around the Earth. But the work you're doing may be laying sideways, and you don't feel like you're laying sideways. Which, if you can imagine doing that, that's exactly what you're doing working on the space station. And it's pretty noisy. There's a lot of fans and a lot of machines, a lot of stuff that in the radios and stuff. So it's not this quiet, peaceful existence that you would imagine you would have. It's pretty high decibel level. You have 16 hours of your 24-hour day is dedicated to work, and you have 8 hours dedicated to sleep. That's the way the timeline works, and you're busy every single minute until you finally get to close your eyes and rest.
So its main purpose right now is it's like a giant science lab, and a really, really unique one too, because the microgravity environment on board enables unique kind of like research opportunities that you just couldn't do anywhere else. They're developing new medicine. They're developing data and tools about climate change and cosmic rays and dark matter. But perhaps the most important work they're doing right now is they're studying the effects of space exploration on the human body. If the ISS is humanity's first step into outer space, our next is almost certainly going to be Mars. And But in order for us to get there, means this huge, long, kind of 18-month, 2-year journey just to get there. And we really don't know what the microgravity environment for that long, let alone being there and coming back, does to the human body. So they're studying a lot of those physiological changes and challenges, as well as psychological challenges. So it's not surprising with that in mind that life on board the ISS is incredibly busy. Every second is filled. That time is so valuable. And some of the most important experiments going on in the world right now are happening up there. But even when you get some sleep, it's 0 G, and that is not always easy.
Oh, it's weird. You imagine the very first time in your life you're not touching anything. And when you close your eyes, sometimes these high energy particles come out of the depths of the universe and whack you in the eyeball and kicks off a little flash of light. So you have these high energy particles, I think called Z particles, that kick off a photon, and you see these lights when you close your eyes. And so that is disconcerting for sure. But once you get so tired, you're working so hard that it doesn't matter. You go to sleep. You'll go to sleep, even the floating there.
But the real work for John was to do something that is perhaps the most nerve-wracking and dangerous thing an astronaut can do. Lucky for him, he's a climber, so he has some experience dangling from precarious places, though definitely not as intense as this. Definitely not 220 miles high. Definitely not with the Earth rushing past beneath you at more than 17,000 miles an hour.
Well, go up in Taggart or go up on Rosie Crucifixion or go somewhere up in Boulder Canyon, or El Dorado, and put yourself out on, you're 20 feet out from your pro and you're thinking, well, this sucks. But you know where your rope is, you know where your protection is. The same thing on a spacewalk is you know where the tether is, you know where your handholds are, you know what you're going to do, where the hard parts are. And, you have to pay attention to the task and make sure you're diligent, that you don't get tangled up in your rope, you don't get tangled up in your tether, and that you're paying attention to the guy climbing with you. And so, we maybe work separately when we're doing spacewalks, but you're always cognizant of what the other guy's doing or woman's doing, because you may be their lifeline if they have a problem. And so the neat thing about climbing and climbing with a partner is you can you pay attention to your partner. You're on belay. You're the one that's going to keep them from dying. Hopefully, if they fall, you're the one in space that can get them back in the airlock if they have a leak or they have a decompression problem or so they get the bends or something. Then you're the one that's responsible. One Italian guy went up and had a leak in his suit and about drowned in his helmet. Well, that's a tough thing. Imagine going on a spacewalk and drowning.
No, thank you. That sounds just terrifying and horrible, and the irony would just be too painful. But despite the spacewalk being the most dangerous thing that an astronaut can do, it's also worth the risk, because the view you get, that feeling of being alone in space with the whole of the planet Earth floating past beneath you, you can only get that if you open the hatch and walk outside.
It's an ear-to-ear view instead of through 3 panes of glass, or one on the shuttle. You're looking through 2 panes of visor. And, you have this whole different perspective on the world. And so you're out, and if you're ever scared of heights, it's a bad place to be.
That might be the biggest understatement that has ever been uttered. I love how cool and laid back John is about it. He really is Top Gun, isn't he? Yeah, if you're scared of heights, maybe doing a spacewalk 220 miles above the Earth is not going to be your happy place.
It's not good. And I'm not. So I know that you're not going anywhere. You're falling, but you're all falling together. And so it's not like you get sewing machine knee like when you're climbing. When you're when you're extended out there, you just realize you're in this really remarkable spot and you have work to do, and you don't want to make a mistake. Your fear is not dying. Your fear is making a mistake. Well, you're about 220 miles to 230 miles or 40 above the Earth, and so it's the ultimate cliff. I had a chance to climb over the side of the space station and push a plunger and hold on with a thumb and a forefinger, and there was nothing between me and 220 miles straight down. Nothing between me and the edge of the Earth and the universe. One time I was working on the backside of Space Station, and the Bahamas floated into view down this long white panel I had my head next to. So all of a sudden you see this absolutely gorgeous light blue of the ocean and the depth of the tongue of the ocean down there, and the really dark blue. And you get to watch it float underneath you as you're going over the top of it. And that was a fabulous thing to see.
Nothing between me and the edge of the earth and the universe, holding on by a thumb and a forefinger. You see the northern lights in one corner of the globe. You see thunderstorms rush across the Atlantic. You see continents sweep by. You see oceans with waves crashing. You see the Great Barrier Reef. You see mountains. You see cities light up like stars. And something just as beautiful happens 16 times a day, every 45 minutes. The sunrise, the sunset.
Sun comes up or goes down. 45 minutes of light, 45 minutes of darkness, 90 minutes to go around the Earth, roughly. And so sun comes up or goes down, and you know when it's coming. You turn your headlights on when it gets dark, or right before it does. You raise your visor at night because you don't need it because the sunlight's gone. But it happens pretty quick. The sunset happens really, really quick.
It happens quick, but it stays with you forever. Because while the world rushes past beneath you, while people wake up and go about their lives, and you fly over them, your perspective changes. Seeing the earth as a whole changes you profoundly, and that is the overview effect.
It did fundamentally change my perspective. I have a much greater appreciation for how tenuous our planet is, our existence here, and how it's important that we do our very best to manage, what we're doing to our Earth, because people talk about going to Mars and terraforming Mars and things like that. Well, that's a far cry when we can't terraform our own planet. When we have the ability to make our life here better, the people fail to recognize the depth, the danger associated with this and understand the science behind it. So, yeah, that fundamentally changed me.
So when we first went into space, when we first went to the moon, we were looking towards the stars. We were looking towards our destiny in the stars. And that's where our focus was. But it may turn out that the most important result of our journey into space was not looking towards the stars, but looking back towards the Earth from where we came. In 1948, the astronomer Fred Hoyle said, "Once a photograph of the Earth taken from outside is available, a new idea as powerful as any will be let loose." So I want to read you a little something from one of my favorite books by the great Carl Sagan. The book is very famous. It's called Pale Blue Dot, and I urge you to get it and to check it out yourself. And the book was inspired by a photograph that the Voyager spacecraft took from the edge of our galaxy back in 1990. This was a distance of some 4 billion miles from Earth. And they turned the cameras back towards Earth just to see from that distance what the Earth looked like. And I will try and put a photograph of this up, or a link to a photograph on the website in the show notes, because it is staggering how small and insignificant the Earth is in the vastness of space around it. You can barely see it. It's a tiny, tiny speck in a sunbeam surrounded by absolute vast empty space on all sides. And here's Carl Sagan. "Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions and ideologies and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king, every peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor, explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. Wow, just amazing. And that's what the overview effect is all about. This is more than our home. This is who we are. And that's the idea that if let loose may just change the world. But John realized something else up there too. He realized we're not alone. No, he didn't see any aliens. I'm sorry, that would be just the most amazing episode ever. But what he did realize is the absolute enormity of stars and space around him.
And stuff from space, looking at pictures from the Hubble, there's no doubt in my mind that I can't, from a probability perspective, believe that we're the only things in the universe. That the life must exist out there someplace else because the probability is so great, given the number of planets, or given the number of stars that exist in the visible universe. And we know there are planets around those stars. So I think it's very short-sighted of us to think that we're so special that we are, the only creation that's out there. Because we are made of what is out in the stars. We are the same stuff that exists, throughout the universe. Why can we not be someplace else? Why cannot life be someplace else? I think the probability is pretty good.
We are made of the stuff of stars. I love that. And it's true, the molecules that make up every atom of our body were forged in the furnace of distant suns. We are literally stardust, you and I. And it's that kind of profound change that happens to astronauts, which led in part to John wanting to share the beauty of not just of space, but of our world here too. And that's what his new film, Into America, is all about. And I want to let John talk about that a little bit.
It's like traveling. It's just like, goes back to this movie. This idea is, you don't really appreciate all these different places until you might get a chance to go there and experience it. You don't appreciate other people until you spend time in their environment. And unfortunately, I think a lot of times, a lot of people don't have that opportunity for whatever reason, be it money or otherwise, to experience something outside of their own existence. And then until you do, it's very difficult to have an appreciation for what others have to deal with. And I think that's one of the things that's, this flat world we live in now, we have this ability to communicate and see other people, maybe electronically or virtually, but it's not the same as being there.
That is beautifully said, and something I'm so passionate about too. Travel builds empathy and understanding, not just with other people and other cultures, although that is vital and increasingly vital in our divided world, but it can also build empathy to the land too, to nature, to the planet itself. And that's an ethos that reflects strongly from John's Native American roots, and it resonates through his new film, which I know he's so super proud of.
I value these places that we get to go and to share with others, and not just the beauty of it, but the culture behind it, the stories, the history behind it, the geology behind it, because that has to be something you can educate people with. At the same time, blow them away with these absolutely gorgeous vistas that IMAX can actually capture. And that's been fun and fascinating for me.
In the movie, John says, in the wildest places, we can still find the connection we all need. That's what this movie's all about. It's about stepping off that beaten path, connecting to that explorer inside yourself. It's about going on journeys to beautiful landscapes. And it's just a hell of a ride. They go all the way from the wilds of Alaska and the beautiful, lush, wild Pacific coast of Oregon to the canyon to the southwest and all the way over to the Appalachian Trail and the beautiful Adirondacks. It's an adventure. It's a great film. I'm going to take my kids. I love IMAX as a format. And it's just a really beautiful, inspiring thing to see. And I know John's really proud of that work. So I urge you to check it out too. Then at the end, I asked him about what it meant to him to be the first Native American astronaut, which is a wonderful achievement. And I wondered what that experience of native culture as he was growing up, how that influenced him, and how it led to this path to him, and how he was able to take those teachings on this great adventure.
So I've always been very proud of the fact I was Chickasaw. That's something my mom always made a point of, for us to recognize. But I didn't grow up in a culture where, we had the language. My great-grandmother spoke the language fluently, but for some reason chose not to speak it to her kids. For whatever reason, at a certain point in history, it was challenging to be an Indian. It was challenging to your existence. And so, for whatever reason, she chose not to, but I've always been very proud of it. I'm learning my language now. I work for my tribe. I value the fact that my tribe is still here, still doing what they need to do, to honor their culture and further their existence. So, looking back on the history of my tribe and where they came from the southeastern United States, eventually to Indian Territory, at the hands of the U.S. government, my tribe, exists today given, a multitude of things that were fundamentally against them, throughout their existence. And so, I think, to honor my ancestors and my Native American side is that, I persisted when stuff was really hard, and I had people that helped me. I had, people help the Chickasaws when they had, very, very difficult situations to deal with. And they thrive and they flourish today. And so I think, I can look back on what the challenges I had and just kind of relate it to what my ancestors had to do. And I figured, if they did it and they allowed me this chance to walk the earth, then why not me allowing somebody else to maybe fly in space or do something that fundamentally changes life on Earth. That's a fabulous feeling, and I'm honored to have a chance to do that.
Well, that is just a beautiful place to end. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for taking us into space. Thank you for showing us through your eyes the Earth from outer space and the profound and amazing power that view can have. Please check out John's movie, IntoAmericasWild.com. It's really a beautiful film and inspiring, and it makes you want to explore one of my favorite countries for adventure and also my adopted home here in America. I want to thank also my man, Mike Cumber, Life and Development, LID, for doing the music and the soundtrack today. I couldn't do it without you, mate. It sounds absolutely beautiful and awesome, and you enhance everything that I do. I want to leave you with another Carl Sagan line. It has been said, he wrote, that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. Thank you so much for listening. Get out there, have some adventures, do some exploring, dare to be truly alive. I'm Aaron Miller. Come back for more. We have some incredible episodes coming up. We are going to the summit of Everest. We are going gorilla trekking. We are going down the Yukon River. We are doing some incredible adventures, and I really hope you can come and hang out with me. At Aaron M. Writer is my social media. Hit it up. Let's hang out. If you love travel and adventure, we'll get on well. Thanks very much. Bye.
I'm Max Hartshorn, host of the Go Nomad Travel Podcast. Every week, I bring you a short 5 to 8 minute escape to somewhere unexpected. I cover the kinds of travel stories you don't hear anywhere else, quirky destinations, unusual adventures, and people who make the world endlessly interesting. If you love discovering new places but don't have time for a long show, these bite-sized episodes are perfect for your commute, your walk, or your coffee break. Join me on the Go Nomad Travel Podcast and explore the world in just a couple of minutes.
If you want to travel more, ideally in luxury, but without the luxury price tag, this show is for you. I'm DeAndre Koch, and on Revolutionizing Your Journey, I use my unique vantage point as a financial advisor to break down exactly how my wife and I leverage credit card points and miles to fly business class, stay at 5-star resorts, and take bucket list trips for a fraction of the cost. Each week, I share real strategies packed with actionable tips and interview some of the smartest travelers in the game to help you revolutionize the way you travel. Travel well, live boldly, and find Revolutionizing Your Journey wherever you get your podcasts.